She is the official DJ for the Milwaukee Bucks. We now welcome, DJ Shawna onto Hoopsology. How's it going?
Pretty great. Thanks for having me today, you two.
So I've been personally looking forward to this interview. I have kind of dabbled into DJing a little bit just in the past, through my friends' weddings, but never gotten to it hardcore. And just seems like your job is like a fantasy job. It combines like my two loves, basketball and like music. So I'm really excited just to talk to you. But so first, I want to get into just your love of basketball overall. I understand you have a background playing in college and playing overseas. Can you just go over that in terms of just, your childhood with the game of basketball and then just your playing experience as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So I joke often about that I came out of the womb with a basketball in my hands, and bless my mother's heart, and I could never put it down. And I actually never had a basketball hoop in my house or at my house in my driveway. And so I was that kid that was like dribbling on the sidewalk constantly. And I grew up playing on the playgrounds. And my brother is a very good businessman, and he started at a young age to hustle kids on the playground. And he's okay at basketball, but he's not the greatest. And so it was enjoyable, like taking the money out of kids' socks, like beating these guys and 2-on-2 and stuff like that, and having my brother brokered those deals. But I was fortunate enough, it carried me through high school. I was grateful to receive a scholarship from the University of Wisconsin, so I'm a Badger. I played at Wisconsin, and I got to continue playing overseas professionally, which was just an absolute like dream come true, and something that I was just really chasing after for a while. And I'm really proud to say, that I did it and I made it. And I think I would still play basketball today if I could competitively. But as we get older, I think our bodies don't often agree with our head and our heart sometimes.
Can you walk us through how the process was in terms of becoming the DJ of the Milwaukee Bucks? This seems like that's not like a job you find on Indeed or ZipRecruiter.
Yeah.
So let's kind of walk us through how you became the official DJ.
Yeah, absolutely. I have actually been I've been DJing for about 17 years, I think. And it started off as a hobby and just kind of continued as my basketball career continued. I did it for fun, like supplemental income, to be honest. And it was a really good way for me to hang out with my peers. And I've always loved music. And so I think about 5 years ago, I started originally with Marquette University, which is like just down the block from me, with women's basketball, and I was their official DJ and host. And coincidentally, that was my first season with the Milwaukee Bucks, just sort of doing support. So if you've been to, honestly, probably any professional game, there kind of are DJs everywhere. So whether it's an official DJ in a field or a stadium or an arena, but then there's also DJs, supporting. Like if you come into Lambeau might have a DJ like in the concourse, similar to like we do with the Bucks. And that's where I started with the Bucks. I was like in the concourse. So as soon as you scanned your ticket, we were playing loud music to like set the vibe for the day. Like you're paying good money to come and see a basketball game, no matter what the team is doing. You're paying money, and we wanted to provide value. We wanted to provide entertainment and wanted it to be an experience. And so that's where I started. And honestly, things just continue to sort of snowball for me, thankfully. And this is technically my second season. I know it's kind of goofy with the pandemic. So last season, which was 2019-2020, was my first season as the Bucks official DJ and producer. And then obviously things came to a halt in March. I went to the NBA bubble, where I was one of 4 DJs in Orlando, which was incredible, to DJ for 22 NBA teams. And then came back and started this season, and it's been a wild ride. So I'm extremely grateful. Like you said, it's not a job that I've ever seen a posting for, but it just kind of continued to evolve as sort of my career did.
What was it like DJing in the bubble? I mean, just in that kind of this small experience. I mean, and also you're DJing for all these different teams too. So I'm sure as the official DJ for the Bucks, you have a vested interest in your team. But now you're just kind of like impartial. So how was that?
Incredible, to be honest. I was first of all, I was so grateful to the NBA and the Bucks for allowing me that opportunity to work and to be safe and stay healthy. It was, like you said, there's like 1,200 of us total, including players. And it was just such a surreal, once in a lifetime experience that I just don't think I'm ever going to be able to forget any of those memories. And so I think, I obviously I love the Bucks. I have an invested interest in the Milwaukee Bucks, but when you tell me that I get to be the DJ for the Lakers or the Heat, even anybody in the Eastern Conference, it was just such an honor again to be one of 4 DJs and to hopefully pay homage to, the DJs that weren't able to work and to do them justice and to be able to be there. I really bought into it and I really enjoyed it. And to be a part of, again, the player experience and to hopefully have added value to their time in Orlando, it's just something that I cherish very much, and I'm really grateful for.
Shawna, what just to expand on the bubble, because we haven't talked to too many people who were actually inside that bubble. What was your experience like compared to the players? Like, were you regularly tested there as well, being on the site? What was that like?
Yeah, it was just that we landed, and day one we started testing right away, and we were at an off out of the bubble. I guess we were at a different hotel for the first like 24 to 36 hours. Like I said, we started kind of got our feet on the ground and organized. And then they transferred all of us to Coronado Springs, where I lived for the next 3 months, and we quarantined for 7 days in a hotel room. And so it's crazy how the pandemic has evolved, and the things that we've learned in different organizations and how they've gone about things. But the NBA just did not mess around when it came to health and safety for everybody, top to bottom. And so we were all tested daily, as well as like a health sort of check-in in the morning that we were responsible for. And it was really cool. We wore masks all the time, to be honest, like unless we were alone in our rooms or actively eating. But it was everything kind of, the guidelines that we've been hearing for the last year, and we have abided by it. And I don't have to knock on wood anymore, but we came out of that with a champion and 0 like positive COVID tests, which is just incredible. I think when you look at the time, because it's just going to be such a cool moment in history that I've been a part of. And it was an unbelievable learning experience, but you look back to like the enormity of it I feel like I'm still sort of processing that.
For sure, 100% unique as far as that season
Right.
goes, definitely.
Yeah.
And how are things now comparatively in the 2020-2021 season? Do you guys have much in-person attendance right now for Bucks games?
Yeah, I wouldn't say much. We're at, I think it's 18% or 16. I know it's like 3,600 people. And so I can hear it. I can definitely feel a difference from coming from the bubble where it was 250 people in a gym, essentially, not in an arena, to coming back to empty arena here in Milwaukee. And then when we slowly got to start phasing some people in, I think it adds value. Obviously, like it's like psychology 101. We play better, when people we know are watching and supporting us. So I think it definitely has added value to my experience, and I can't speak for the players, but I would assume so, to hear actual crowd noise and cheering and, smack talking and everything. You can hear everything. That's the funny thing is like sometimes when that crowd noise is turned down, you can hear somebody talking during a free throw, and it's not just on the court. It's, some fan across the way in the arena. And so it's been, I think, really good, and it's hopeful. And that's what I think has been great is, again, following CDC guidelines as well as like local health and safety, and making sure that everybody is following protocol and wearing a mask and doing their best to keep everybody 6 feet apart. And I'm excited to see how things progress. I know, ideally we're going to be back to what we know is normal, in some capacity fans wise next season, hopefully. So I'm continually impressed with how people are figuring out how to get through this while taking care of everybody's, keeping everybody's well-being in mind. I think it's heavy stuff.
Definitely. So you kind of answered it, but it sounds like the morale is starting to raise again by just people getting to be in attendance, at that limited capacity even.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think I mean won't forget the first day that we have fans back in the building. I start like in-game prompts right away, especially when they're limited or no fans at all, because I think, being a basketball player, I love the sound of basketball, but you have to fill an empty arena and you got to fill some space. And so, like, my defensive prompts early in the first quarter, especially, are very simple and basic. And I remember the first day we had fans in there and I played literally just like boom, boom, like very simple. And all of a sudden I hear like people like responding, which is also very rare for an NBA game to have people start chanting defense on possession one.
Nice.
When so many games happen, like really get down to it in the fourth quarter. And so it was really cool. Like you said, it's hopeful, it's inspiring, and it's just the baby steps that hopefully we can all continue to move forward.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you, in terms of your process of picking the music, what is that like, especially pre-pandemic for each player? And I think the NBA is more hip-hop focused, R&B focused. Do you have players that maybe don't really vibe with that? Or do you think kind of the identity, the DNA of the league is more leaning on hip-hop, R&B music? Like, just take us through your selection process of just the music you have during the course of a game.
Yeah, it's I think it's really interesting. And to be honest, what I have to often remind myself is that these players are also humans, just like us. And so if you open your Spotify or your Apple Music or however you decide to listen to music, it's probably going to be pretty eclectic. And the bubble honestly taught me that and had my heart and my eyes and my ears really open to it. And so I knew the Heat loved country. Jimmy Butler and Myers Leonard's loved country. When we had George Hill, George G loved country. And so I really have a lot of fun with that because I am an open format DJ. I love playing all kinds of different music. I love that. I also love like having that impact on people that are going to hear music. And that's, I think, one of the beautiful things about music is it brings people together. So I would say it leans heavy on hip hop and R&B, but there's always room for more. I think I've gotten a lot of great feedback when it comes to like old school hip hop as well. And even like Motown, and you start like stretching that. And so and there's videos of Giannis like that have been viral of him singing One Direction. And so I don't ever knock music personally. I don't hate on any music. I recognize it's like food. There's some type of food, certain types of food that aren't for everybody, but I like to be that DJ that tries to make people happy. And I try to keep an open heart and an open mind when it comes to it. But I would throw Afro beats in there though too. When you're talking about like hip hop, R&B, Afro beats, I feel like a lot of it has like that same vibe and same feel.
Can you kind of explain to detractors of, I guess, music being played during possessions? Because I was growing up watching basketball. That's just within the DNA of the NBA.
Yeah.
I'm just so used to it. But I have heard complaints just from media members and stuff like that that may not be necessary. But I believe it adds some flavor to the game compared to other sports. They don't have that. So can you just explain why that's necessary? Just having music playing when whatever team's on offense, why that's so important?
Yeah, I don't know if I can answer why it's necessary. I do know that before I got into what I'm doing, there was an NBA game that they tried it like old school without music. And I think it flopped terribly. Like it did not go well. And I don't know the answer to that. I'm sure that, everybody has a theory, but I also know, again, being fortunate enough to be in the bubble, I can speak on every different team had a different philosophy. I can tell you that the Boston Celtics didn't want instrumental beats. They were very programmed to like their organ sounds, and then defensive prompts. And so for our Bucks games, it is in game. I have all like hip hop beats, whether they're like old school hip hop beats or like yesterday's top 100 hip hop beats. And so that's just how that sort of vibe is. But I also know, again, every team and organization has a different philosophy on this. And for us, I know our guys love it like constantly. And I think, it's instrumentals. As a basketball player, I worked out and I always had music on. So I can assimilate and identify with that and understand it. I respect people that don't necessarily maybe understand or get it, but those in-game beats aren't necessarily for the crowd. That's for the players to just keep the game going. And I think for as much as we would love again, I think the sounds of basketball are so beautiful. And, like a perfect swish is like one of the greatest sounds ever. It's like right when the baseball like hits the sweet spot of the bat. Like those, every sport has that sound. But we also have to recognize things are often said on the court too that I think it helps mask as well, a little bit, whether it's TV or in real life. If you're sitting closer, you might be privy to a little bit more of the conversations that are happening on the court. But I think there's a lot that goes into it. But I do think it is kind of the vibe and the energy that basketball, that image portrays. And music is so ingrained, like you said, in sport.
What has shocked you? I know you've only been the official DJ of the Bucks for like a short time, especially with the pandemic and everything going on. But what has surprised you overall that you didn't anticipate going into this, but it really shocked you? That took you by surprise.
I think honestly, the amount of music that I play during a game, and my again, every team and organization has a different philosophy and goes about things, but I personally am in charge of everything that you're going to hear auditory wise, unless it's a video. So that means, excuse me, pregame music, which I start sometimes like 3 hours before, depending upon how often guys will get out on the court to start their warm-ups, all the way until we decide to turn music off at the end of the game. If that's one song, two songs, sometimes 15 minutes, if we have a presentation, like it just depends. And so I remember my first, it was an inter squad scrimmage. It was like a green and white scrimmage on the Bucks. And it wasn't even a game. And I like my Johnny Watson, who I work with directly at the Bucks, he was like, how'd it go? And I was like, this is so much music. And that was like scratching the surface on, especially I think we at the, like with F5 and with the Bucks, we kind of push the limits on like how we do a lot. We like our games are like on 100, and it's an experience. And again, it's just what we do, and so it's just like nonstop. It's definitely like an overstimulation sometimes, especially after a pandemic. But yeah, I think that was the biggest thing, was just how much content I was really just like literally figuratively like pushing and putting out there.
Shawna, maybe this is kind of a weird question, but as just kind of pulling back the curtain for us a little bit, that in-game, the sound clips, the music that you're playing is so interesting to me. And, I think you made a great comparison earlier, comparing it to food. And I think that could also be like in-game music could be kind of like salt in food, right? Like if we have too much, then that's not going to be a great dish, etc. Do you have like a kind of process, like a certain number of acts you're trying to play per quarter? Are you kind of just going with the flow of the game? I mean, I'm sure there's a huge element of that, because obviously, in like fast break transition, you don't want to be having a ton of music during that time. What is kind of the general feel you try to go for?
No, you're absolutely correct, Matt. And I think sometimes being a professional point guard, I kind of get a better vibe of that. You can kind of feel the flow of the game, if you will. And there are times too that I think, that you have to let it breathe. Sometimes, it can get really sloppy, and it's like 2 seconds, and then all of a sudden we're back on defense, and then we force a turnover and we come back on offense, and it's just like you just kind of, sometimes you can't force it, because I'm human. And so there's also like, if all of a sudden I'm playing a defense beat and we're on offense, like it just doesn't feel right. And so sometimes I just have to let it breathe. If we get a quick like transition bucket, like you're mentioning, especially now that we have a few fans in the building, it's nice to like let them naturally rise and carry into like that crazy Thanasis dunk right now. And just let it happen. And I think that is also something that I feel fortunate, kind of, again, maybe knowing having maybe a little bit higher basketball IQ than a normal DJ. But it is something that I also take a lot of pride in. It's like, you just kind of got to let it happen sometimes, because like you said, if I don't ever want it to feel off or awkward, and they don't want to force it. So I'm reading and reacting off of them for as much as like they're reading and reacting on offense and defense as well. For me, it's like it's my own little game.
Shawna, can you just take us into what was it like this DJing in front of no fans? Because I saw your video online and your energy was so high, and yet they showed the arena and no one was there.
Yeah.
And I was just like, how is she doing this? Like, because
kudos to you.
Thank
yeah,
you.
That is
it was.
tough.
Yeah, the video was just surreal. It was just the weirdest thing, just to see like empty seats and then a competitive game and then just limited reactions. So how are you just keeping that energy up? And like you said before, it must have been just a total breath of fresh air, even though the capacity is such at a low level. Still, any level of fans is better than nothing. So how was it first, like that first game with no fans? Was this a huge shock to the system, or you were able to keep that energy up from game one?
First of all, thank you. I appreciate it. I know this might sound really silly and cliche, but I take my job pretty seriously, so I think I have one of the few jobs that I can't. It like being an athlete. I can't bring my feelings across the lines, right? And so if I had a crappy day, or if if something bad happens, like I can't carry that. I can't come in and just play sad Drake songs because I'm sad. And so I take that very seriously. Again, I respect so much, especially when there were no fans in the building, what these athletes were doing, having such a small understanding from my experience. So whether it was in the bubble or even here, because you look at this season, and this is a season unlike any other. Again, we just got done talking about the bubble, which was like a season unlike any other. And so this season, like they're just grinding, like the games and the some back-to-backs that they've been playing, and then on the road and the travel, it's been a way different view and how previous seasons have been. And that's what I look at, is like I have a responsibility. Like they're going to show up and I'm going to show up, and I'm going to always be here for them. And that's just how I look at it. And I just also too, I guess, if you peel all that back, I got to be like one of 50 people in the arena to watch Giannis be an MVP, to watch LeBron be LeBron, to watch Jimmy Butler be Jimmy. That's something that like you shake your head and you just like, I'm so grateful. And I didn't want to any moment, any minute, any game to go by without like taking it in. And I love basketball. It felt like AAU, like summer camp. It was so cool in Orlando.
What has been some of your favorites, this Bucks moments so far, just DJing for them? Does anything stand out to you?
You know what? I think I'm be very honest, I miss them, and I miss being a part. I'm so fortunate because pre-pandemic, I did a lot for them and with them, whether it was their birthday parties or their kids' birthday parties or their baby showers or they love Halloween parties. And so I miss that. Again, when you look at, I miss being a part of a basketball team. And so when I get to be around them, there's just really nothing like it. And our guys are really like, what you see is what you get. They're amazing humans. Their significant others are just incredible. And they love like to hang out with each other. And that's something that I miss. And I cherish very, very much.
And I got a weird question for you, just because we live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, so we don't have any pro team here. And Matt and I have just been to summer leagues. But just watching just League Pass and just kind of the goofy things that they do during a timeout, I didn't realize just the weird just promotions and different stuff that happens during an NBA game that when you watch it on ESPN or TNT, you don't see. Yep. So has there been any of those weird moments that you've seen that's been like, why are they doing this during
all
a
the
timeout?
Time.
Yeah.
All
Can you kind of point out some examples of just the craziness you've seen?
We've done, a hand washing cam since we've come back. Like we do a mask up cam. We do the inflatable wacky waving tube guy cam. Like the
Yep.
Yeah.
Always sunny.
yeah, exactly. See? And so that's funny. I think it's just I think what's really fun is how much people are engaging right now with cams. So you talk about, again, less than 4,000 people in the arena, and they're responding and engaging. And I think it has such a huge part. We haven't done anything for a year, and so you get to see yourself up on the video board, and people always have their phones out, and kids love to dance and see themselves. It's so cool to just do that, and so it I think it seems maybe weird from the outside, but I think it just warms my heart to, like, that adds value to the game. That adds value to the experience. Like, yeah, we went and saw Giannis, and he had, 47 points, and Brooke was amazing, and he had 6 threes, and I was up on the video board. And, like, so that's part of the whole experience on being in the arena. And I think too, something that the Bucks has really instilled in me is, like, how can we try to impact every single person in there? And that's part of it. It's like we just like to have fun and make people's day. And it sometimes might seem cheesy and corny, but it's sometimes that cheesy and corny stuff that we just need. You never know what happened before they got to the game, and hopefully under those masks they're smiling.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's something that I think fans that is watching on television, national TV, not aware of, just kind of interactivity just with the team and the fans itself. I want to ask you kind of an NBA question in regards to the Bucks. Now, they're primed. I think a lot of fans are expecting them to be a contender to go to the NBA Finals. What is that going to be like for you if they happen to make it to the NBA Finals? Because that's some next level stuff, and especially if fans are allowed to full capacity with the vaccinations. I mean, that's going to be such a monumental moment. I mean, the finals are such a intense spectacle as on its own, but add the fact that we haven't had fans in arenas. I mean, that's going to be a double whammy. So have you been thinking about that possibly? Not to jinx yourself, in terms of what's been going on, but has it been a thought in your mind, but being, hey, like, this team could go to the finals and I could be the DJ, like the finals. Like,
oh, trust me. Honestly, yes, absolutely. And I was actually thinking about it while I was working out and lifting today. And so it's I try to be prepared for everything, because admittedly I was not prepared for a pandemic. So I try to, like, really have some foresight and try to think of, like, all the available options that could happen. And so DJing for the finals in a bubble is probably very different than DJing for a finals in your home arena with fans. And I have not been able to do that yet. And so I do think, when the Bucks happen to make the finals this season, it's going to be bonkers, no matter how many people are allowed in there. I just think it's going to be incredible. And as we continue to, make strides as a country, I think with the vaccinations and getting closer to herd immunity, I'm excited, for it's hopeful. It's hopeful, because I miss festivals. I miss street festivals. I miss DJing for people in real life a lot. And I look forward to when we can get back to that.
Yeah, me too. It seems like the lights at the end of the tunnel, just seeing a little bit of fans. I'm like, okay, finally we're gonna be out of this.
Yep.
For sure. Well, thank you very much for coming on to the show.
Thank you.
Please let our listeners and viewers know where they can find you on social media, and also what else you're gonna be up to, especially once this pandemic crap is over. What are you gonna have lined up for the rest of this year? Do you have anything planned in terms of other DJing opportunities in the future?
Thank you. So everything on social is DJ Shawna. It's my name, DJ SHAWNA. I'm mostly on Instagram, Twitter. You can find me on Facebook, on my Facebook page, and that's my website as well. And I keep everything pretty up to date. I try to stay on top of it. And I think the other question, what I have my first song is coming out. I produced a song, and so I'm really excited about that. The pandemic, I tried some new stuff, and that's been on my list of things that I've been wanting to do. And so I don't have a date yet. We're still working on the final vocals on it, but I think every day we just get one step closer. So that's something I'm really excited about. And I'm hoping that if things are continue to go in the direction that they have been, like I said, with vaccinations, especially here in the state of Wisconsin, somehow we've been crushing this. I hope that we can have Summerfest, which is one of the world's largest music festivals, Pride Fest at some point, and I'm hoping to see people when it could be safe and we can get back out there and I can be a part of things that I just love to do, and hopefully help bring some joy back to what has just been an exhausting year for so many people on so many levels.
Well, you mentioned, before I let you go, that you're producing a song. What has that been like? I'm always interested in
hard.
beats process. I'm a huge fan of Timbaland Swiss Beats, and
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like what has that been like? Actually creating your own songs compared to DJing. You mentioned that it's difficult. Is it?
Yes, it's very difficult.
What's been the toughest part, you think?
I think it's learning something brand new and not being good at it. I'll be very honest with you, Justin. And so, I think as an adult, even we aren't. I don't know what I necessarily want to say. It's tough to learn something new, and to put yourself out there makes it even more vulnerable. And so it's something I wanted to stop talking about, and I just wanted to do. And I'm grateful because I have an incredible support group. I have people that are teaching me. I've been taking classes, and I just try to learn as much as I can, absorb as much as I can, but then there's so much behind actually showing up and putting some action behind it. And so that's the part I'm excited and really proud of is like the action. It's like it's actually happening. Because then you just get a little bit of confidence and you just keep getting better. It's just I'm a firm believer in the 10,000 hour theory, and right now I'm far from 10,000 hours in production, but I think you have to start somewhere.
For sure. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Thank you.
We'll be keeping our eyes peeled when that track's coming out.
Thank you.
Maybe following you on Spotify
Please.
once it's on there. So I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you very much, DJ Shawna, for
Thank
joining
you.
Hoopsology. We've really enjoyed the chat.
I appreciate you both. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe and healthy.
All right,
Thank
you
you.
too.
Thanks. Bye.